Hello, Paul Rudd. Welcome to Stay Humble podcast. How are you feeling today?
I'm good, thanks, David. I'm very, very well.
That's great to hear that, Paul. And firstly, just for the listeners, I just wanted you to talk about yourself briefly, like your story in terms of and how you've got into sort of the fitness and how you started functional fitness as well.
Yeah, of course. So my story goes back to sort of when I was at university doing my undergrad degree at Hull Uni, doing sports science. And that was sort of the stem of the interest for health and well-being and sort of sports science. When I got into my third year, I managed to secure an internship at Hull City at the academy. And it was a great experience, worked with all of the academy players, some of which now are playing in the first team. And when I graduated my undergraduate degree, they paid for my master's. So I again secured an extra 2 years there, doing sports science, doing an internship there with S&C, so strength and conditioning as well. So the start of my journey for the functional fitness was all me learning new skills, all about the science behind fitness and sort of conditioning players. So it was a really good experience for them 2 years. And when I finished my master's, it was kind of a what now? It was a really good environment, but I just didn't think the environment was suited to me and my main interest, really. Like anyone, when you want to forge a career and start, you probably do loads of different things to add extra strings to your bow, but it may not be the thing that you want to do as such. So I jumped around doing a bit of other things, working with early years, so primary school children, looking at their sort of physical and cognitive development, working within primary schools. And then it's sort of how functional fitness became a thing was that if anyone knows me personally, like my mates will, like I absolutely love cooking, love food, love nutrition, but I didn't really know a lot about nutrition. And I think the degree that I didn't really cover much on the effects of nutrition. But there was a free elective, which I took about nutrition, but it didn't really go into detail as much. It was more about supplementation. So I love cooking and I just sort of wanted to learn a bit more. So during the first lockdown in summer, I, like everyone else, a lot of people I know, was on furlough. And, bring us back to that times with the sun, tanning in the gardens, hands up, had a few gin and tonics at 11:30 in the morning. But I used that time to sort of, I had always had a vision of me being able to work for myself, even just a little side hustle, with the sole goal of just trying to help people with their own wants and needs for health and nutrition. So during this summer, I spent a long time doing loads of reading, probably, sad to say, more reading than I think I've ever done with my undergrad, maybe my postgrad as well. I just started to read loads of scientific studies. I bought loads of different books covering nutrition, health, well-being. And then that's sort of where the idea came from, that I could, and there's many brilliant personal trainers out there, and they all, from my experience, I know that they all say the same thing about, calorie counting, macronutrients, behavior change. And that's brilliant. That's essentially what you want. You want someone to change the behavior to that sustainable lifestyle. But no one was really talking about, gut health. No one was really talking about longevity. No one was really talking about, can you reverse disease? And these types of questions that I wanted to ask. And I sort of did lots of reading to try and find the answer myself. So that's the whole premise behind functional fitness, was to help people with additional questions that maybe PTs might not be able to answer. And that's not their fault, because the personal training qualifications are great. It depends, because there's so many different providers, isn't there? But I just think just trying to learn every bit more, learn every day basically is the way to go. And that's sort of what functional fitness is about. And I always say to my clients, it's not a weight loss plan, it's a health plan. And weight loss is a byproduct of a healthy lifestyle. And the healthy lifestyle is what we all want to live, and it's how you can sustain it. So it's all about sustainability is the main reason, because we all want to be healthy, but we might not want to give up what we love, and that's fine. I ain't going to give up ice cream, but I know the limits to it. Do you know what I mean? That's why I always say I know the limits to it. I know how to sustain a healthy lifestyle without having to give up the things that I love, basically.
I think everyone loves ice cream, to be fair, Paul. And what were the sort of influences in terms of you getting involved, firstly, in fitness? Who influenced you at home, or was it at school? What was the influences for that?
I think it was just a love of sport. If you're a young lad in Hull, Yorkshire, or even just the world, and you know go to school and you have some form of athletic ability, you naturally just fall into sport. You sort of, not a trap, but it's a good trap. You get involved playing loads of different sports. And I always say that, like, I'm 26 now, and I feel sorry for kids now because the world's changed. You've got the distractions of technology. You won't want to go outside as much. Obviously, there's stats say that, you know, more crime happens outside, etc. So as a parent, do you want your kids to go out as much? But then they're missing them fundamental experiences to go outside and get involved with exercise, physical activity. And I really feel for them because that's what shaped sort of who I am and shaped my own personality, basically. But yeah, in terms of how I got into fitness, it was always through sport. Sort of started the gym just before sort of college time when I was 16, 17. Wasn't like the massive gym goer, never really been really strict. I've just always enjoyed keeping active and fit in many different ways and sort of stressing my body out in as many different ways as I can to find what I enjoy.
No, that's really, really insightful in terms of how you've got into sort of the fitness, and obviously touched a little bit there on terms of your experience with Hull City. How did that opportunity come about in terms of working there?
Well, my supervisor for my undergraduate degree did a lot of research working with the players, and he knew the head sports scientist there who's moved on now. But it was just a matter of me trying to put myself in a position to get in contact with the right people. So they were doing some research study years and years ago when I was in my start of the third year. And I sort of said, hey, can I come and, you know, help out, collect some data, whatever you want me to do? It'd be great if I can go get that experience. And he said yes. And that's when I got to meet the old head of sports science and medicine, who's now moved on to another club, and just got chatted there really and started building that relationship. And I think if there's any, and I always say this to anyone who's starting at university or not sure what they want to do, or if they have a good idea, is university is great because it gives you the knowledge and you've got access to incredibly intelligent people. But what's more important is putting yourself in the right position to get the benefits after. You see what I mean? So it's always about trying to build contacts and get that experience on top of your university degree, which I would think I was really, really fortunate enough to do that.
I would probably say I was the opposite, I'm afraid, like in terms of, I think like what you're saying is totally right. I think it's not so much always about what you know, it's more about who you know. And I think obviously it sounds like you really took them opportunities in terms of the people that sort of set you up in terms of Hull City. And I think that's something from my experience at university I wish I took more of, to be honest. And I wanted to just get into the sort of terms of this topic of conversation, which is about your most recent blog post, which is about gut microbiomes. And I wanted you just for the listeners sort of to explain why we need to listen to our gut.
So how much time do we have? So this is from my first readings of summer, and that's when I sort of did a deep dive into this topic, and it is huge. So to start with, let me break it down. So there's me, Paul. There's you, David. We're different human beings. We are covered head to toe in little microbes. If you look at your thumb, there is as many microbes on your thumb as there are people in the UK. And as we've evolved, you know, throughout the thousands of years that we've been alive, we've co-evolved together. And where these microbes are most located are deep inside us in our large intestine, in our colon. And this is known as the microbiota, but when we refer to their genetics, it's the microbiome. And because these little microbes are so good at doing their jobs, we've trusted them with loads of different things to come to do with our health, basically. Like we trust them with our digestion, our immune system, our metabolism, our hormones, our mood, and even our memory and brain function. And even they help us express our genetics in a different way. So we're 99% the same in terms of our human genetic code, but we are somewhere from 90 to 100% different when it comes to our gut microbiome. And I think that's something really powerful, where it makes sense when you think about it, that I might like the foods that I like, but you might hate them. Or you might have food sensitivities to beans, but I might not. And that's the kind of thing which is the questions I want to ask and help people who might have food sensitivity problems or who might struggle with low energy. These sort of questions, I want to be able to help them people. So when we talk about the gut microbiome, there's loads of different species. You've got bacteria, most of which are good. You've got protozoa, parasites, fungi, yeast, and these microbes have to be perfectly balanced or balanced in some way. Whenever it's to do with health, when you think about hormones, something bad, it's a hormonal imbalance. It's the same with your gut. So if you've got a balance of the gut microbes, as in more good than more bad microbes, that's a healthy gut microbiome. But this is when I can introduce a new term to the listeners, is when you've got an imbalance of these gut microbes. This is known as dysbiosis, as an imbalance of these, less of the good anti-inflammatory bacteria and much more of the pro-inflammatory, pissed off, angry bacteria, basically. And dysbiosis has been studied a lot, and you can see that it's a root cause and definitely got some correlation between many of the Western chronic illnesses and diseases that you've got today. So when it comes to listening to your gut, it's a really, really good way to indicate how you're feeling and how healthy is your gut. Because if you've got a healthy gut microbiome, you are much more likely to have a healthy lifestyle and reduce your risk of all these diseases.
And what would you advise in terms of for like listeners and stuff of ways that they can improve their health, their gut health? What things can they do in terms of, dietary or, their intake of water or, different things, how they can maybe improve that?
So if I've just posted, I said sort of leading up to this podcast as well, I was going to do a lot covering the gut microbiome. And yesterday's post was all about fiber. And the reason is because these microbes, obviously they're alive, but if they were like you and I and they went to Pizza Hut, they would completely dodge the pizza and they would dive headfirst into the unlimited salad bar. And the reason why is because they are absolutely mad and go mental over fiber. And if I ask you, and I did this on a poll yesterday on my Instagram stories, is, if you've heard of fiber, most people just think fiber is what's in your grandma's bran flakes in the morning to help her poop. And it's true, fiber does help you go to the toilet. But what I think a lot of the nutrition side of things that we aren't talking about when it comes to our health is the benefits of fiber to our overall health. And so improving your gut health, one of the main things that you can do, there's the fiber's so biochemically unique that there may well be millions of types of fiber. But to keep things simple, we split it into two categories: insoluble and soluble. So insoluble fibers, more like the roughage that you get from roots and stems, and you eat it, it passes through your body untouched, goes through your large intestine relatively untouched, and comes out the other end. That's what you've traditionally heard about. Soluble fiber, what we call prebiotic fiber, and this is the food for your microbiome, so your microbes. So you eat soluble fiber, it goes in through your small intestine relatively unchanged, goes to your colon, and then this is where the microbes go absolutely mental. And to reiterate how mental they go, we've got a spaniel at home. So if you've got a dog and you get all excited and go, walkies, let's go for a walk, and it goes mental, that's kind of what happens to these microbes, basically. And the beauty of improving your gut health is if you eat fiber, what happens is once that fiber is broken down, it releases this thing called short chain fatty acids. And us humans, we can't digest fiber. We can't break it down, meaning that we don't produce enough enzymes to break down fiber. But our microbes, they have over 60,000 of this specific enzyme. So when you eat these fibers, it's food for them. They go to work and crack on and break it down. And then that's when it gets broken down, what they release is short chain fatty acids. And this is the most important thing, I think, in all of nutrition. And this is something that we should be talking about. If someone says, I've got type 2 diabetes, how can I help myself? This is when the education of these short chain fatty acids becomes so important. So improving your gut health, where do you find fibre? Fibre is found exclusively in plants. So there was the biggest study sort of looking at the species of microbes in your microbiome was the American Gut Project. And it was over, I think it was 40 different countries. And the end result was that they found as the number one predictor of health was the diversity of plants in your diet. So in terms of improving your gut health and improving the health of your microbiome, the more different plants that you can eat correlates with the number of species in your gut. And the number of species in your gut means that they have more enzymes to break down all these different types of fibers, meaning you get more short-chain fatty acids, which mean that you have better overall health.
No, I think that's really good advice in terms of looking at eating more plants and trying to have a bit more of a varied diet. But why do you think people in the fitness industry don't really talk about this in terms of, information for the public? Why is this not out there more readily sort of in the sort of fitness, like the bigger fitness sort of people and stuff like that sharing this?
I honestly don't know. I feel like it is obviously very, very in-depth science and that side of things, and it is, I think the fitness industry is ever evolving, and it's sort of got to this, what I used to like to call the macronutrient wars. So, high carb, low fat, high fat, low carb, always eat your protein, all that kind of stuff, and focusing on calories. And that's fine. That's great because we have to, concentrate on how much we're eating, portion sizes, calorie balance. It's all very important for weight management and body composition. But when it comes to your health and weight loss are two different things as part of the same puzzle. So I think when it comes to this nutrition side of it, talking about short chain fatty acids and why it's not being documented, is because there's a lot of new research coming out, but I just don't think it's filtered down yet. I just really don't think it's filtered down into these personal training courses. They did, the one I did covered fiber, but it just said that there's two types of fiber, soluble, insoluble. It went into a little bit of detail, but there was no mention of short chain fatty acids. And these short chain fatty acids are, if I go into a little bit of detail, they're incredible. So once they're released in the gut, right there and then, they fix dysbiosis. So they help balance out the microbes. They also prevent colon cancer on the spot. They help energize the cells in your intestine lining. They get into the blood. They help lower cholesterol. In the heart, they help prevent coronary heart disease. They reverse type 2 diabetes. In the immune system, so in your gut, 70% of your immune system resides within your gut, which when we talk about immunity now, it's kind of an important thing. It makes sense because what you eat is from the outside world. So having your immune system in your gut makes perfect sense to me, doesn't it? To help prepare. So they optimize, these short chain fatty acids optimize your immune system. They cross over this thing called the blood-brain barrier, and they get in your brain. They help improve your mood. They help improve your memory. They help prevent Alzheimer's disease. So when we talk about, I know that you've covered a lot over the past few weeks and months over mental health, and especially the effects of mental health over this lockdown. It's so important that we eat the right foods because the science is there. It's there for us all to read. And if you want to put it into the search in like PubMed, Google Scholar, you can read about it. It's there. If you eat a healthy lifestyle with whole foods, predominantly plant-based, you help prevent yourself from getting anxiety, depression, mood swings, all of these disorders. You can help do that.
I'd like to say that's some really important advice that you've just given in terms of what the effects of having this sort of balanced diet in terms of the fatty acids and stuff. And I think it's certainly something that would help, for instance, the NHS. I mean, the NHS must have so many people that go to them regarding type 2 diabetes. And obviously the usual way of around it is obviously offering medication to deal with these things rather than actually offering this sort of information to people. I think would be much more beneficial and financially better for the country as a whole, really. I think would certainly be something that we need to do.
I definitely agree. And I think when you look at healthcare, we've got an incredible healthcare system in the UK. Incredible. Just look at the NHS and what they've done over this pandemic. Incredible. But when it comes to general health, and this isn't the whole thing, this is just my opinion, is that the healthcare is there to set people up. But when it's not healthcare, it may well be sick care, because we're not looking, I don't feel like we're addressing the root cause of chronic disease and illness, which is predominantly what happens when you adopt a Western diet full of processed and refined foods. We're not addressing the root cause of type 2 diabetes. We're not addressing the root cause of heart disease or cancers, which can be helped prevented by a healthy diet. So I think we slowly going to be coming into an age where governments from hopefully around the world, especially the World Health Organization, can start having a bit more funding for the education of young people in schools and help people learn a bit more about nutrition and wellness to find out of what they can do to minimize the chronic disease that we see so much now of high processed foods, high refined diets, and live longer. So that's the goal. We all want to, and I did this a post basically when I first started my Instagram page, was we all want to live long. We all want to live the day we're born till the day we die. That's our lifespan. The day we are born till the day we have the onset of aging and chronic disease is your health span. If you have your health span matching your lifespan, you're going to live a long, healthy life free of disease. But if you have a diet high in processed foods, high in refined sugars, refined foods, you are going to increase your risk of chronic disease and aging.
Yeah, like I said, that's what a lot of people are wanting to do, obviously, is have a lot more long and prosperous life. And I think that sort of thing should be considered. And I've obviously, myself and you have posted out a lot of things on the social media in terms of questions from the public. And I just wanted to put a couple of questions that I've received through our sort of polls and stuff like that. And the first one is that someone has received, I think it's Rebecca actually, she said that she feels like she receives mixed messages regarding consumption of meat in terms of gut health. What is your take on that, like in terms of the conflicting messages in terms of eating meat?
Yeah, so when it comes to meat, I am not a vegetarian. I'm not a vegan. When it comes to meat, and I think this is important because obviously when in the nutrition world, you got meat eaters, you've got the very extreme saying carnivore diets, you've got another extreme saying completely vegan, plant-based. And what's more important is how is that food raised or how is that food grown, which is the most important thing for me, because when it comes to plants, the plant will only be as healthy as the soil that it's grown in. Same for meat. If you've got let's say a cow in a conventional farming environment, it's not a species appropriate diet, then the health benefits from that meat isn't really going to be that good for you. It's probably going to be bad. So that is where, if you have meat which is, conventional farming, not grass-fed, if we're specifically talking about beef, let's say, if it's not pasture-raised grass-fed beef, if it's just conventional farming where these cows are fed GMO soy crops, it's not species appropriate. They even get fed antibiotics. I know this is in America. I'm not sure about the UK, but they get fed antibiotics solely for the purpose for them to put on weight so that they get more yield of food, which obviously that's not going to be good for our health, and especially not our gut health. So when it comes to gut health, what we want to be doing, if you want looking to optimize the gut microbiome, the more plant-based that you go, so I'm talking 70, 80, 90% to 100% plant-based, it has to be whole foods only, whole food plant-based, because you can have a vegan and you can have, let's say, a meat eater. If the meat eater is having grass-fed beef, fresh wild-caught fish and salmon, what else, like fresh organic chicken, which isn't fed the non-species appropriate diet, they're having all that natural food, and they're having, let's say, 60% whole food plant-based. 100% that individual will have a healthier body compared to the junk food vegan who is having, the process, it's still processed vegan burgers, let's say, or, the vegan chocolate bars. Vegan, for its intention, is really good. It's always meant to be good. It's meant, the intentions were there to help people's health. But I think marketing wise now, it's, food companies have used the word vegan to promote health, but in fact they're processing foods as well. So in terms of optimizing the gut microbiome, the more plant-based you go, and it's got to be whole foods. So for the viewers, if you don't know what whole foods are, the simplest term is, if it's a whole food, it's got one ingredient. If you go to the supermarket and pick up a carrot, that's a carrot. If you go to the supermarket and pick up tomato puree, that has had things added in. So this is where it's called refined or processed. Things have been taken out and things have been put in. So whole food, the more whole food plant-based you can go, the better it is for your gut health. But there is no damage to the gut microbiome if you are eating good quality sources of meats and fish. As long as you are hitting that 70, 80, 90% plant-based diet, you will basically have more of these antioxidants and anti-inflammatory compounds from these plants, which help balance out, again, like we said about balance out that the gut microbes.
Yeah, and that's really good advice in terms of just like say making sure you're sourcing your meat and stuff like that, rather than maybe just choosing anything off the supermarket shelves. Really, I think you need to really look at what you're eating in terms of what you put into your body. And my girlfriend wanted to ask you a question in terms of local tap water and how does that affect digestion, and her questions really to say, like, would you choose to go with bottled water or would you still consume the local tap water that you can have on just tap?
It's a really good question, actually. And to me, when it comes to anything local, anything to do with your environment, it's really important to consider that. I don't know if you've seen the David Attenborough documentary talking about biodiversity. So
yeah, I think I have, yeah.
Basically talking about, the more species you have, the more different life and more different species of life you have, the healthier the planet is. It's the same with your microbiome, and it's the same with our local environment and our own ecosystems. So for me, if you are living in a healthy ecosystem and you've got vibrance of life and animal life and all these things, tap water is great. I would never ever say to anyone, don't drink tap water because it's unhealthy for you. It's still water, and what that water should contain is the natural minerals, vitamins from your local environment, let's say, and from the ecosystem, which is going to benefit your health. Like, we've evolved, drinking water in poorer conditions than they are now. So me personally, I would always more than happy to drink tap water. I normally drink anywhere from 3 to 5 liters of water a day, depending on my activity levels. And that's all the time tap water. But if you prefer bottled water, go for it. I don't think there's going to be any negative effects from drinking which sourced water that you get.
Yeah, and what about in terms of yogurts as well? They obviously like the Activia yogurts, the small yogurts. Are they helpful for the gut microbiome?
Yeah, so when I mentioned earlier about prebiotics, which is the sort of soluble fiber, this is food for your microbes. Prebiotics is the food for your microbes. Postbiotics is the term used to describe these types of food products. So like your Activia yogurts, these yogurts, you are ingesting like real live microbes. So you're putting them in your gut. So when I said about you want a big, diverse range of species of gut microbes, this is a great way to help balance out your microbiome and increase the diversity of species within the gut. So me personally, I don't ingest any postbiotics. I could maybe look into doing that, but I know that my diet's very diverse in the number of plants I eat. But if you get prebiotics, so from fiber from plants, plus postbiotics from, for example, Activia. There are other sources of postbiotics that I know that I'm not fully aware of, but you can source it from elsewhere. So prebiotics plus postbiotics equals what is it? Sorry, I can't remember the term for this, but this basically equals a healthier gut microbiome, more short chain fatty acid production, which I've listed earlier, has an unlimited amount of health benefits.
Yeah, and the final question in terms of the questions I've been sent through is about, will exercise exacerbate IBS?
Exercise alone is a really good tool, and I think we should all, not just anyone with IBS, but anyone. I need to stress the importance, and I know that you definitely would have touched upon this in the podcast earlier, in the previous guest, is that exercise doesn't have to be a high intensity interval training. It doesn't have to be 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, an hour, 2 hours. It can be anything you want it to be. And the most important thing is that something that you can get your heart rate up, you get the blood going through your body, and you basically light a fire in your metabolism. It could just be walking. Even if you just want, and you're not feeling up to doing a run today or go for a 15-minute walk. 10, 12 minutes is enough to activate the metabolism of your mitochondria, to wake them up. But in terms of IBS, exercise, research has shown that, doing light exercise or just any form of exercise each day and being regular and consistent with a form of physical activity does help reduce the symptoms of IBS, alongside a good, healthy, diverse plant-based diet. So anyone suffering from any gut health issues, the most important thing is to make sure you're eating your fiber, but this is the main thing. So I don't know if you said it was the last question, but the one thing I definitely want to touch upon before people go away after watching this podcast and start eating 3,000 kilograms of broccoli, is that if you have food sensitivities, the reason why is because you are lacking the microbes that can break down that specific type of fiber. So let's say beans. If I've got a food sensitivity of black beans, I eat the bean, it goes in, but I don't have enough number of those microbes to break down those fibers, so that I experience bloating, I experience gas. What we want to do is reintroduce that species and build them back up low and slow. So when it comes to fiber, if you've got any food sensitivities, if you can pinpoint what food that is, you can low and slow reintroduce that food. Think of the gut as a muscle. What happens if you don't go to the gym? Your muscle gets weak. Think of rehab. If you need to go to rehab because of your knee, and you need to walk, it's going to suck for a while. It's going to be quite painful, but you're going to regain function of your knee. If you've got food sensitivities, if your gut's going to rehab, you want to slowly introduce these foods in a manner which you can slowly introduce more of this type of fiber, let's say the bean. Then what's going to happen is I'm going to low and slow have my microbes that break down the fibers of that black bean will grow stronger. They'll get more in number. I'll start to balance out my gut microbiome. And if you've got food sensitivities, doing this low and slow approach for a few weeks, 6-8 weeks, you've rehabbed your gut. You've got a functioning gut. So yeah, definitely when it comes to food sensitivities, I think it's really important that not to go away and just think, I'm going to eat loads of fiber, because you'll actually do more damage, more harm than good. It's all about that low, slow, methodical approach to sort of balancing out and helping the food sensitivities.
Yeah, I think for people certainly with food sensitivities, they just need to find the foods that feels okay. Like we said about in terms of just like listening to our gut, I think that's what we really need people to just do in terms of them sort of situations. And I've got a few more questions, to be fair. And in terms of January is obviously known as a new year, new me, sort of typical people that like want to start the diets and stuff. And I think this year would probably be one of the worst times to have started a new year, new me, when you think of 4th of January and it was locked down again. And it's just like, oh, what do we do now? Gyms are shut again. And basically, I can imagine a lot of people, if they were in this sort of situation, it's that sort of time now is where people are likely to sort of veer off and go away from probably what they were doing, because they might not enjoy the foods that they were eating and stuff like that, and starting to hit that sort of road where they're maybe not getting any weight loss and finding it difficult. What advice would you give to people in terms of this, in terms of how can they eat healthier, or things to make it more exciting to stick to them sort of goals that they may have set themselves up for?
Yeah, so I mean, we're all the same. We're all human beings. The new year, new me stuff is real. We all get that sense of I'm gonna attack the year. I'm gonna be better. Everything. I'm gonna be better this year than I ever was. We've all got that. The trouble is with this year, like you said, 4th of January hit, lockdown, gym shut, and to most people, that is, I'm not gonna lie, that is a massive blow to what you want to achieve. But it doesn't mean that you don't have to achieve your goals. You just have to be adaptable in your approach to what you want to achieve. And for me and my clients is that my approach to health and nutrition, I've never counted calories. I've never counted macros. I don't really like it. I don't have anything against people that do. I think it's brilliant if you can do that. But for me, the main philosophy behind functional fitness is sustainable health. Am I going to be counting calories and macros when I'm 65 years old? I am not going to do that. If you are, then crack on, do it. You're great because you'll be able to achieve your goals by doing that if that's the method and the approach that you take. But the biggest advice to people would be is find what you can sustain. And in lockdown, especially, we don't know how long the lockdown is going to go. Obviously, they've said they're looking to lift it sort of mid-March time. We don't know if it's longer, but the one piece of advice I would give to people would be, if you're looking to improve your health, this is the main thing. If you want to lose weight, great. But if you are looking to improve your health, use this time to experiment on yourself. It's the biggest opportunity you're going to get to try new foods, to try new recipes, to have different approaches to your health and nutrition. So I did a challenge earlier this week that with every single meal that you have, can you have at least 4 different plants? If you do that, we know, we've talked about it earlier in the podcast, we know what happens. You're increasing the diversity of plants in your diet. You're having that increase of diversity of microbes, having more short chain fatty acids, better for your health. So for me, the main thing for people to try is just have a trial and error with your health and nutrition, but make sure what you are doing is following some form of routine that you know you're going to get good benefits from. Like we all know, if this is the reason why I don't count calories, because I don't want to be restrictive in my approach, but at the same time, you don't have to be restrictive with counting calories because calories are in every food. I can just eat a tub of Ben and Jerry's every day, but I'm not going to be doing any favors to my health. So it's finding that balance on that spectrum of where's the healthiest lifestyle you can live without giving up the things that you enjoy. And that's where I said about experiment with your body, try new foods, try new recipes, and just think of it as you are approaching nutrition in a health-focused way, not a weight loss way. Because I can guarantee, I can almost put money on it. If you are eating the right foods and you be consistent, it's not rocket science, but if you be consistent for a few weeks and eat the right and predominantly the whole foods, you will lose weight. You will lose weight because the amount is nutrient dense, calorie low foods are whole foods, which is why I think in lockdown, biggest advice, when you shop, go straight to the whole food section, go straight to the fruit and veg, control the controllables, buy that. And what I want you people to do, especially after they've worked with me for my plans, is not necessarily know a recipe to what they want to cook, but they're in the supermarket, they go pick up a pepper and they go, great, I know 7 different things I can do with this pepper. And then they can go home and go wild. And that's what we all really want, is the ability to, be healthy without having to think too much. So use this time to really try trial and error cooking with recipes, enjoy the process of cooking food, and have a little trial and error. See if you need to go to bed earlier, try cold showers. That's something that I've got into the right swing of it now. Have you ever done a cold shower before?
I've been doing it for over a year, if I'm honest, Paul. So I know the benefits of a cold shower and how much that can help people. Yeah, I would totally agree. And in terms of the shopping, like I was just going to ask you, but I feel like you kind of pretty much answered that in terms of planning for shopping. Would you go out in terms of just saying, right, these are the 7 meals we're going to have this week, pre-plan it, or would you not Or would you just more or less go, like you said, just go down the Whole Foods and the fruit and veg and just purchase what's there and think of the ideas after that? Or
Yeah, in terms of that, for me, it's completely dependent on the individual. We've got to take that individualized approach to health and well-being more importantly. And as much as, you know, the food we eat is nutrition and health, is well-being as well. Because if you go into the shop and you're running around the aisles like we all have done, and you think, oh shit, what am I buying today? I don't know what food I'm going to make. That's stress, that's cortisol going up, and that's unhealthy. So what I would say is, with the whole trial and error, maybe what I would suggest is a good idea is maybe pre-plan a few recipes, some food that, you know, staples in your diet that you know you're going to enjoy, meals you've had in the past, and make them. But maybe overshop or buy a little bit more whole food, like whole plant-based foods, or even if you want to buy meat products, that's fine. But then look at it and think, how can I use this? And this is my approach to nutrition, and it's really, honestly, I think this is the simplest way to do nutrition if you're not going to count calories or not going to concentrate on macros. Is, for example, this morning I had porridge oats, and to most people, horrible, just porridge oats. But I look at porridge oats and I go, great, okay, cook it. How can I make it a bit better? How can I make this dish healthier? I might want to make it a bit sweeter. Maple syrup, whole food. Okay, good source of natural sweetener. Berries are really high in antioxidants, high in anti-inflammatory, good for my health. Add some colour, add some berries, blueberries, raspberries, 2 new colours. How can I make this healthier? It's porridge oats. Okay, there's loads of different seeds, loads of different nuts. Chia seeds, high in fibre, high in protein. Cashew nuts, almonds, vitamin A, vitamin K, vitamin E, really good source of protein, good source of healthy fats. I've just gone up to 5 or 6, 7 different types of plants in one meal just by going, how can I make this healthier? And the simplest thing is just add maybe a bit more diversity of your plants. Cut down on the big bulk of, I don't know, broccoli, mixed leaves, whatever it is. Have half the portion of mixed leaves. How can you make it healthier? Add a different plant in. Add some quinoa. Add some red cabbage. Add some chickpeas. You know, that's my approach to my nutrition is, can I fill my plate up with as many different plants and as many different types of food as possible? So that's my approach.
that's a really different approach. Like I say, I'll be honest myself, I'm trying to sort of do a bit of weight gain, and I usually it's like, I love porridge myself, but what I would do is, like, say, full fat milk and a spoonful of Nutella. But that's how I sort of take, and it certainly would be something for me to take away from this, is maybe looking at adding more colour to sort of my breakfast bowl rather than going for, like they say, the full fat sort of elements to that sort of dish. And you also talked about, in terms of a calorie deficit earlier, and other diets, particularly fasting as well. You know, what are your thoughts on this? Because, to be honest, this is quite interesting for myself, because I have got quite a few friends who, you know, are into sort of fitness and have had very good success in terms of using a sort of a calorie deficit or fasting sort of methods in terms of losing weight. And I just wanted to get your take on that, in terms of what are your thoughts on these sort of diet approaches?
Yeah, well, me personally, I despise the word diet. I don't know why this word has become a thing, because essentially a diet is whatever you eat. It's your diet. You know, it's nutrition. It's a diet. It's what you eat is your diet. So I hate using the term diets. But if you're looking to go on a diet and effectively change your behavior, and if you want to specifically change your body composition, you've got to understand about calorie balance. So I can understand why, you know, if someone comes to a trainer and goes, oh, I want to lose a 5 kilograms of weight, or, you know, lose my body fat percentage to whatever, then yeah, you have to understand calorie balance, because if you want to lose weight and burn fat, you have to be in a calorie deficit. But when it comes to, you know, if you're looking at health plus that, there's much more to focus on than just calories. And I think that's why my philosophy comes from looking at more of the micronutrients and looking more at the effects of the food that you put in your body. So what was the question again? Sorry, I went on a tangent.
I just kind of wanted to get your thoughts in terms of diet, in terms of like what your thoughts on fasting, calorie deficit,
Yeah,
maybe, sort of more like sort of 5 and 2 diets, all these sort of commercialized diets these
yeah,
days that are in the media, sort of socially
yeah.
promoted. What are your real thoughts on them? Like I say,
When it comes to dieting, or again, don't like the word, but when it comes to changing your nutrition, the most important thing that I always say to everyone when it comes to when they make a change is do something that you can sustain. And yes, you can maybe go on the ketogenic diet and you might lose a ton of weight, and that's brilliant. But can you sustain that for another 5 years? And I think even if you want to go and do a ketogenic diet for 4 months and then go back to a different type of nutrition approach, then that's fine. If you get your goals, then do that. I don't think there's anything wrong with, and there isn't. There's nothing wrong with people wanting to change their approach to nutrition. In my opinion, these are the type of people who I want to work with, because I want people to go, I'm not having the best of time. I'm low on energy. I'm feel like I'm overweight and I don't know what's best to do this. But at the same time, I want to improve my health. I want to optimize my immune system. What's the best way to do that? And that's where I try and get these people who, instead of just want a weight loss fix, to try and optimize their health a bit more, because that's the approach to my plans is looking at the whole holistic functional medicine approach, which is using whole foods and food as medicine. But when it comes to dieting, the most important thing is find out what works for you, no matter what it is. As long as you can be healthy in your approach, I think that's for me. As long as you are being healthy in your approach and not being restrictive of the health benefits of food and whole foods, then you do what works for you, because that's what's going to get the most results for you physically, body composition wise, and mentally and psychologically as well.
yeah, and this kind of like came to my mind really in terms of stuff I've read myself in terms of for females, particularly those going through menstrual cycles and stuff. What are your sort of thoughts in terms of dieting during that phase? Because obviously that's sort of a phase where I think women expect to sort of just carry on losing weight, when really that's not a time that they should be even encouraging dieting. What's your take on that?
Yeah. So with females, again, some of maybe the more sexist guys out there will hate me for saying this, but I do feel for females because they've got it rough. Like, hats off to all of them, because what you do in your bodies, what you are capable of doing, in my mind, is incredible. And so when it comes to the menstrual cycle, that's just a natural part of your body, of what you do. And, hormones are going to be going up and down every month. And for me, it's really important to, maybe even more so for females, to focus on your health and well-being more, because you don't want to, go on a diet that is going to disrupt your menstrual cycle, or affect your period or things like that. And again, I'm no expert on this. There's doctors with way more knowledge on this than me, but I can tell you from a hormone standpoint, you don't want to be doing any drastic dietary changes around your menstrual cycle, because you don't want to mess that up. And one of the things is fasting. So I know you mentioned fasting before, and I think fasting is a great tool for basically health benefits. Again, fasting is something that I provide as part of my education for my plans. I don't ever say people don't eat unless they're after the plan, but I educate them on it, and it's a much more than just restricting calories and picking what you want throughout the day. Like, that's obviously a big part of it, but fasting and feeding it, by the polar opposites, and it's a form of stressor. So when it comes to females, you don't want to stress your body too much, because that response might be a negative one. And this was what my master's study was all about. Fair enough, it was about physiology and change of fitness within these football players, but it was the dose response, which any living thing in the planet, its biology is made up of a dose response. So if I drink half a cup of coffee, I've got half a cup of a dose of caffeine, I'm going to have some form of physiological response. If I drink a full cup, I've doubled my dosage, let's say gram for gram of caffeine, it might not be, but let's just hypothetically say that response is going to be a bit different. So fasting does this in the way that it's a form of stressor, that you're stressing your body out, and there are many different health benefits to fasting. But if you are a female and you have already maybe got some form of hormonal issues or imbalance of hormones, I wouldn't recommend doing fasting because that can disrupt these hormones even further.
Yeah, I would totally agree with your advice on that. And just a little bit more about supplements, particularly for people in terms of those maybe that not able to get the nutrients maybe from having, like say, what we've talked about already, like vegan or vegetarian diets. What supplements would you maybe suggest to people to take daily?
So again, when it comes to supplements, they use them as a tool. For me personally, I don't supplement protein. I don't supplement BCAAs. I've obviously went through a phase of having protein when I was younger and before I knew a bit of research and before I started to do more reading. But in terms of supplements, the only ones I take are multivitamins and cod liver oil and calcium. That's solely just because my joint health, my wrists are a bit dodgy, but I take that just to help get extra nutrients in. But when it comes to supplements, there's for me, if you're going to supplement, before you go, oh yeah, I'll just take a multivitamin, let's say, or I'll just take vitamin D supplements, which are really important. But can you get these sources of nutrition and nutrients from your diet, your nutrition first? And the easiest way to do that is by having an increased number of diversity of foods within your diet. So fair enough, when it comes to vitamin B12, for example, it's very well documented that vegans have low vitamin B12 values because they have a lack of let's say, meat in the diet. But there is another body of research which says if you have that diversity of plants and eat enough diversity of plants, you do get more, you get enough nutrients, more than enough nutrients. So when it comes to supplements, is have a look at what you're eating first. If you look at your weekly shop and you think I ain't got enough plants, or I know that I might be a bit low on energy, or I'm not going to be outside much this week, so I'm not going to get my vitamin D, no harm, no foul. You have your supplements, take them. But for me, I'd always advise people to go whole foods first. If you're not, I always call it the 12-year-old boy diet, which is filling up on, let's say, Pepsi Max and pizza and burgers and chips every day, or a lot of the time. You're not going to be, your fiber is going to be way down. You're going to be deficient in fiber, going to be deficient in vitamins and nutrients. Don't supplement. Don't tell me you're going to supplement vitamins and nutrients because you're on a 12-year-old boy diet, because straight away I can tell you, change your diet first, see how you feel, because you're going to get the benefit from that. You're going to get the fiber benefit from that as well.
I would agree in terms of just, like say, getting your nutrition right, and then obviously, like say, seeing what things that you might be missing before you start supplementing. So my final 3 questions for you, Paul, is firstly, I want to ask, obviously we are currently in the lockdown 3.0, and I just wanted to sort of get your general fitness sort of mindset in terms of what advice would you give to people during this lockdown? What 3 tips would you sort of give to the sort of public right now?
3 tips. Let's go. 3 most important ones. Put me on the spot. Okay. Number 1. Most important one, which links to the other 2, let's say, is look after your mental well-being. So from that one point, imagine like a little sprouting tree coming from a finger. There's loads of different things you can do, but the most important thing is look after your mental well-being. If that means that you phone friends every hour and you know that that's going to make you feel better and help stay connected with your family and friends, do it. That's going to help your mental well-being. If you think that, every now, you're feeling a bit down, but you are eating healthy, but you think, I just really want that Ben and Jerry's. I've been there. Go get your Ben and Jerry's, because that's going to be good for your mental well-being, that having that little form of release. As long as you're being healthy and you are, that's not going to do you any long-term damage if you just have it that once. So number 1, find ways to help improve your mental well-being and mental health during lockdown, because it's a big blow. Like, I know we had a chat before the podcast, and I said about that during summer the lockdown completely different. Honestly, I had a great time, and some people wouldn't have, but I was very fortunate with that first lockdown that I had a lot of fun. It was nice weather. I personally didn't enjoy it, but it wasn't bad compared to this winter one. It's completely different for me. I feel, run down, dark outside. I don't like it. So the main thing, main tip, look after your mental well-being. Imagine that sprouting tree, one little branch, which helps link back to tip number one, is get your daily dose of movement. It doesn't have to be exercise. It doesn't have to be a long 10-mile run. It doesn't have to be biking 30 miles. As long as you are going to do some daily dose of movement, minimum, let's say minimum 12-minute walk. But even if it's not that, just run up and down the stairs for a couple of minutes. You know, it couldn't be anything. You could be creative. It's lockdown. Just do some form of movement each day, because that helps with your mental well-being. And another tip, let's say number 3, what I said earlier, and I think it's a great opportunity for people to experiment with themselves, you know, and that's the main thing. Tip number 3, experiment with yourself. Look, have a read about what different things you can do to help improve your nutrition, your health, your diet, whatever it may be, and go and do it. You know, like you said, you've been doing cold showers for the past year, and you'll know the benefits. There's loads of benefits with cold showers. It's again, stressor. It's got some brilliant health benefits to your parasympathetic nervous system. It switches that on, etc. Try it. If you've not done a cold shower, try it. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to feel a bit cold. You're going to get loads of benefits from that cold in 30 seconds. That's all you need. You know, if you want to maybe go plant-based for a week, try it. You know, if you're on furlough or if you're stuck at home, experiment with yourself is what I'm trying to say, and find new things that you might try now, which potentially down the line will form into habits.
I think they're awesome tips, Paul, if I'm honest, and I think I'd certainly advocate all the things that you've suggested in terms of like the movement and stuff. They're certainly things that I've shared recently on my social media for people to do. And I want to ask you is, what does it mean to be human?
What does it mean to be human? Great question. For me, being human, it means to be a part of this world, basically. Like I said about the microbiome, it's a species. It's our own little universe inside our gut. We're a part of the planet, and our planet's as part of the universe. So being human is just being one species about the whole world. And if you've not already, I know me personally, I'm going to definitely try and be a bit better when it comes to, you know, my climate change and what I can do to help the planet. And that's the main important thing. And everything's connected. So being human, just be a good human being, and, you know, talk to people, connect with people, and just be happy in life. You get one life, so you may as well be happy and, you know, and have a bit of a laugh along the way.
Yeah, we only have one life, and we've got to take what we have, so we need to take each day as it comes. So yeah, I'd advocate that as well. And then my last question for you is, how do you stay humble?
How do I stay humble? Is always know that no matter what I'm doing, there's going to be people who are less fortunate than me, and it's to wake up every day and, you know, have that mantra, have them positive affirmations of like, I'm grateful for today. Every day I wake up, and I may not say it out loud, but it's really, really powerful form of meditation to wake up every day and just be grateful, practice gratitude. I know that there's loads of different things to do in terms of gratitude, journaling, let's say, but, you know, so for the viewers and listeners, my little challenge for you for the next week then, or even just until the weekend, try Friday, Saturday, Sunday, is each morning or nighttime before you go to bed, just write down 3 things that you're grateful for. And even after them 3 days, it can be anything. Honestly, it could just be like, number 1, felt great after a cold shower. Honestly, just write down 3 things you're grateful for. And I've been definitely thinking of 3. I know I'm sucked a bit, maybe writing them down every day, but that helps me to stay a bit humble, because you're just grateful for being alive and grateful for the people in your life.
Yeah, I journal most days, and I'd certainly think that's part of my journal is to state what I'm grateful for each day. And I do that as well in terms of working with my support bubble on social media with Stay Humble, and asking them each day like sort of things like what they're grateful for or what they want to achieve. I think they're things that people really need to take in terms of being grateful for each day is really good. And I just want to give you now, Paul, a platform for you to sort of let people reach out to you in terms of where can they find your sort of social media platforms and where to read your latest blog.
Yeah, so if you want to check my stuff out, or if you definitely want to contact me about anything, please feel free. My Instagram handle is functionalfitness_UK. Please give it a follow. And on Facebook, you'll find me as Functional Fitness UK PT, I think the tag is. The website is functionalfitnessonline.co.uk, and on that website is predominantly where you'll find my blog posts, my online plans, and hopefully sometime in the near future, I will be running some boot camps, which will be mainly functional training, which is a modality of training which I'm sure lots of people will enjoy. But yeah, please follow the page, follow what I've got to say, because it's predominantly my sole purpose with the platform is to reach as many people as I can to help them with their health journey, whether that is anything to do with what they want. But yeah, if you find me on Instagram, functionalfitness_UK.
I just want to thank you, Paul, for jumping on this podcast. Like, I think it's been really fascinating to sort of listen to your mind in terms of explaining like gut microbiomes and basically ways people can now try and look at maybe how their diets really. They need to sort of think how they can eat more whole foods and have more plant-based diet and improving that. So I think it's been really fascinating to hear your mind insights in terms of your knowledge. And I just want to thank you for coming on the podcast and discussing those.
No, honestly, really grateful to come on, and thank you very much for the invite. What I think definitely what you're doing with this podcast is outstanding, especially over the lockdowns. I think it's not only a really good insight for people, but it's what people need. A place to go and talk about things which can help the health and wellness, and not only that, but everything that your podcast has been doing has been fantastic. So very, very thank you very much for having me on, and I hope that, like we said, as long as we've helped one person today, that's the goal, isn't it?
It is indeed. Thank you, Paul. Thank you for staying humble with me.
No, cheers.